Welcome to all of our attendees this morning. We appreciate you taking the time out to do these Toolbox Talks with us every Tuesday morning. And we also want to say a very big thank you to all of you that actually took the time out to send us emails and WhatsApps. And some of you have even called when you've managed to get through to us on our phones. And we thank you very much for the encouragement that you've given us, as well as some of the suggestions of what you want to hear throughout these Toolbox Talks. So let's get straight into it this morning. The tips to continue to prevent COVID-19. You're probably very tired of hearing this. We know legislation is going to be changing on COVID. We're not too sure what those updates are at this stage, but we want to continue just to make sure that we wash our hands, which is good for basic hygiene in any case. So if we didn't have COVID, washing our hands, making sure that we don't touch our eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. Even if you cough or sneeze, use a flexed elbow or use a tissue and then throw that into the bin, and clean and disinfect frequently touched objects. Now, all of these are pretty basic, good hygiene practices. And so it's good for us to do this, not just to prevent COVID-19, but also in our daily lives as well. Now, this morning, we are taking a look at electricity and why electricity is so dangerous. But we're not going to spend all the time looking at this Toolbox Talks topic this morning. So we are going to focus on electricity, the tools, and also what we should do if we do come across any electrical installations that we are not qualified to handle. But then I'd like to share with you some very exciting news that we have received from our OPSA. So I'll tell you about that at the end of the Toolbox Talk. I'll try and keep the Toolbox Talk short and sweet, and then take you through this information at the end. So as we mentioned this morning, we're going to be looking at electricity. Next week, we're looking at hand and power tools and what we need to do practically to ensure these are not just used safely, but are kept in a safe condition. And finally, we end off the month with housekeeping. A very important part of any plumber's day is ensuring that before we start work, the area that we are working in is clean. Nobody wants to work in a dirty environment. Well, this would depend if you're going to be working in a sewer for the day. Well, then we want to ensure that you personally are kept safe. And housekeeping extends further than just a working environment. Remember, our bakkies are an extension of our company. And so when driving on the side of the road, in construction sites, or even parking at that client that you are going to go and see later on today, what are they seeing when you climb out of your bakkie? Is it an extension of you personally, your company's name? Do you take pride in how it looks and how clean it is? Remember, your clients will always see that first before you climb out the bakkie and start speaking to them. Housekeeping will also extend to the tools that we use. So not just the outside of the bakkie and the inside of the front cab, but what about in the back, where all our tools and equipment are kept? Housekeeping is super important there as well. But we'll touch base on that at the end of the month. The safety thought for this week is do not let overloaded sockets turn you off. Well, that is because overloaded sockets have the potential to cause an electric shock, which could potentially be fatal. Now, electricity is the flow of electrical power or charge. It's obviously a secondary energy source. It's not the primary one because we get it from a conversion of other sources of energy. So we'll have things like coal or natural gas, oil, nuclear power, and all of these provide electricity. So from these primary sources, we then get a secondary source, which is electricity. Now, while any amount of current over 10 milliamps, now that's 0.01 amp, is capable of producing a painful to severe shock, currents between 100 and 200 milliamps, that is 0.1 or 0.2 amp, are lethal. Now, you might think, well, I maybe don't work with electricity, maybe you are a plumber and electrician, and so you do the electrical installation, perhaps of geysers as well. Maybe you're a plumber and you don't do any electrical, you outsource that to a separate contractor. And you don't understand the difference between milliamps and amps and watts. Well, at the end of this Toolbox Talk, we have a slide to show you exactly what milliamps can do to you as a human body and how much electricity you would need to then just power one little light bulb. So the light bulb that you see there on the right-hand side, let's say, for instance, this was a 100-watt light bulb. Now, you pretty much know that, right? 100-watt light bulb. We go down to our local Spar, Pick and Pay, or Checkers, and we go and buy a bulb for our home. Generally, we're looking for the lowest watt bulb. And the reason for that is we want to try and save electricity at home. And so we try and look for a 12 or a 15 watt or 20 or a 25, depending on the application that we need, the brightness, the size of the room, etc. But let's say that we're going for quite a big bulb. This is a 100-watt bulb. How many milliamps does it take to power this little light bulb? And how many milliamps would it take to kill a human body? Before we get into that, let us take a look at what electricity dangers there actually are. Now, the electrical installation regulations for you as plumber electricians or electrical contractors, you know that you have to fall under the electrical installation regulations. The same is true if you are working with asbestos. The asbestos regulations will then affect you. So if you are looking for any regulations or direction on electricity, we have a regulation in South Africa called Electrical Installation Regulations. Now, they were developed to protect the electrician. First of all, we want to ensure that the electrician who is performing the work is always protected. He is safe while performing his work. Then after this, once the electrician has finished, he signed off the building, we then need to protect the user of the equipment, as well as the lessor. This is the person who perhaps, that should be lessor, leasor, normally the person who is going to be leasing the building. There's a spelling error there, I apologize. This is to protect them against serious incidents and fatalities. Now, an electrician's job can only go so far, isn't it? The same as you as a plumber. You can only provide the installation, sign it off, and leave. How the user uses the actual equipment is really up to them. But there are certain things that you can do to ensure that the user doesn't abuse that installation. For instance, do you have something that will switch off a geyser if it is running out of water? Well, you'll have a switch to prevent it from continuing to boil without water inside. And so should the user do something faulty and it creates no water in the geyser, it will then switch off and not turn on. And they will call you out to fix the problem, or they will realize there was no water going through to that geyser. Now, you could only do it so far, right? There is only so much you can do for that geyser installation. As an electrician, you come through and provide a COC to ensure that that geyser is electrically powered and connected to the correct switch on the DB board. It has its own isolator so that you can ensure that it is according to the correct standards. But once you've done that, how the person uses it is really out of your control. But what can we do? Well, what we can do is ensure that the installation cannot damage the person. You see, there's no exposed wiring. It's not incorrectly connected. It has the correct power source. It has enough power to power the type of equipment that we are placing in. So let's take a look at a few more things that we need to know, specifically speaking to you as electricians out there, or even plumbers who perhaps come across an electrical installation, remembering that if you are not qualified, you cannot work on that installation. Now, the first and foremost thing that we need to remember is all electrical work must be carried out by a registered person who is competent. Now, you might think to yourself, well, I know a little bit about electricity. Well, how many of your clients say they know a little bit about plumbing? And when you take a look at their plumbing, you realize that they should have called you sooner. And that is because all of us know a little bit about something, isn't it? But we are not the professionals. We are not qualified. Competency means that you are trained, you are qualified, as well as have the experience in that line of work. Now, just because we take our tools and we change the plug on our tools does not mean we are an electrician. So please leave this up to a registered person. In fact, this is what we would want to tell all of our clients about plumbing installations. Plumbing installation must be done by a professional person. We might think, well, electricity is a lot more dangerous than plumbing. Well, is that really true? Well, electricity has the potential to shock and kill you. That is very true. But a geyser has the potential to explode if it is not correctly installed, rather. That has the potential for serious damage, fatalities. In fact, if water is contaminated in a building because of incorrect plumbing, you could poison a household, you could poison a company, you could give them serious illness. In fact, it could even become fatal depending on the type of contamination. Imagine getting the pipes mixed up so that the waste was not actually going to the waste. It was filtering or siphoning back into drinking water. And so all of that biological hazard is now going into your drinking water if your plumbing installation was not done correctly. So we might think to ourselves, yes, electricity, straight away, serious danger. But if you isolate it, then the electricity line is dead. Then the only danger you have from a copper cable is perhaps sticking it into your fingers while working with it and getting a nasty little puncture wound. But without the actual current flowing through, the dangers are very, very similar to what we would experience in any other trade. If it is incorrectly installed, you will have the potential for risk. Now, again, if you are a plumber and you are also performing electrical work, are you trained, qualified, and do you have the experience in doing that? Because all electrical work must be done in accordance with the standard. A specific standard that sets out how this installation must be done. In fact, even changing a plug on a power tool also needs to be done according to a standard. So yes, you perhaps have done it before, but rather have somebody that is trained, qualified, and experienced in order to perform that specific scope. Remember, all electrical work must carry a certificate of compliance. That is the requirement. The same as the requirement for most plumbing works. You will then sign off a COC in order to ensure that it was not just quality, but that that installation is not going to severely injure or hurt anyone. Now, what if we need to change something? Section 7 of the Electrical Installations Regulation states that all alterations and changes must be done under the supervision of a competent electrician and signed off, with a new certificate of compliance being obtained for each installation. So if you have an installation and something is changed or you are altering something on that installation, it must also be done under the supervision of a competent electrician. Now, the reason for this is sometimes you have electricians that are not signed off yet. They're not red sealed yet. They are perhaps training to become an electrician. And so they can perform some of the works, but they need to do it under a competent electrician. This would be the same as plumbers who are trying to become plumbers and are still learning. These apprentices are working under a plumber who is trained and qualified. They can do certain tasks. They are able to perform certain scope of work for you, but it must always be done under the supervision of a competent person. And again, it must then be re-signed off with a new certificate of compliance. And this is because the alteration must show that it is in accordance with the SAN standard. Now, the Department of Labor must also be notified using the correct annexure document of any new or existing electricity to be installed or altered. This doesn't often happen. The same as in construction regulations, where you need to notify the construction or notify the Department of Labor for certain construction work. Now, we'll get into that also when we do our mentorship program with you on what is an annexure document. Why is it so necessary to either report to the Department of Labor, get a compliance certificate from the Department of Labor, or just notify the Department of Labor of certain things? This is all to ensure that the work that we perform does not endanger ourselves, first of all, and does not endanger the people that come after us. Once you've been paid and that scope of work is finished, that project is finished, it's done and dusted, you've moved on to the next one, the people that come after you, those users of that equipment, we need to protect these ones. You never know. It could be a family member that uses it. So inspections of all electrical equipment are vital. We must have this done. So before we use any electrical items, they need to be inspected. And this would go even as far as taking a look at our tools, our power tools, our grinders. All of that needs to be inspected. Now, I've seen on quite a few construction sites, the registers and checklists for power tools, and we're going to handle this again also during this month in hand and power tools. What are registers and checklists and how often should they be done? According to your construction regulations, your power tools must be inspected every single day. Now, many are inspecting them every week, some every month. And this is according to some of the safety specifications that we are receiving from our clients. Now, we're not going to fight with them because a lot of them say, well, it's so much work to inspect these things every single day. Can we do it once a week? Can we do it once a month? Please remember, we are not just pulling this out of our thumb. We're not sucking it out of our thumb saying, well, let's use this site and say that it can be weekly. Let's use this site and say it can be monthly. It is done according to our risk assessment. If those power tools are being used 8 hours a day continuously, always being used by maybe different people, the risk of that tool becoming a hazard is a lot higher than a plumber coming in and perhaps putting in copper piping into a wall that's only 3 meters long with maybe 4 anchor points. You see, he might not have to check that drill every single day. He might need to check it once in the week and then perhaps the next week again if he's going to do some more installations. But let's say somebody who is coring through concrete and they need to go through 5 floors and they're constantly using that drill. The risk of that drill burning out, becoming damaged, or potentially injuring the operator or somebody around him is a lot higher. And thus, we would say they specifically need to inspect their tools every single day. So please remember that we work in accordance with our risk assessment. And the same is true of our electrical installations. So we need to ensure that our installations, our tools have proper insulation, they are grounded or earthed correctly, they are maintained in a good, safe working condition, which means we need to inspect them regularly. We are never allowed to use damaged electrical cables. Another huge issue that we find with many plumbers in the back of their tools, in the back of their bakkie with all their tools, that some of the cables that are attached to these grinders and drills are absolutely terrible. The cables are frayed. The actual cabling on the inside has come out of the insulation. And what they're doing is they're just taping it up or twisting it or making a knot around it. They're pulling on the cable when carrying their tools. They throw them in the back of the bakkie. And then instead of getting in to reach the actual body or the casing of the tool, they just grab the end of the cord with a plug and pull it. Now, you do this often enough, eventually you're going to cause damaged tools. Now, if we are going to inspect our tools to ensure that they are safe, please do it also in a safe environment. You can never inspect an electrical installation, even an electrical tool, while it is live. We need to use the lockout tagout methodology. Now, for different electronic devices, for electrical installations or electrical tools, these are all different. For instance, on the right-hand side, the picture you see here is a full electrical installation. This has a board that has all its electrical points to it, and that will operate different parts of the equipment or machine. We then lock it out. It gets turned out of service, and you will notice in this one, we have 2 locks. The reason for that is we have one person that is the safety appointed person that will lock it out. And then we have a second person that is the supervisor who will also lock it out. And so you will need 2 people to unlock this device and continue to use it. That is protecting the end user. That is protecting the person who is inspecting or performing maintenance on this installation. Now, another type of lockout for a drill is to pull it out of the power socket. That is locked out, it's out of a power source. And that is what we want to do. We want to isolate it to ensure it cannot become live or start working while we are inspecting it or doing any type of maintenance on it. Again, any type of maintenance must be done by a competent person. In the beginning, we mentioned a 100-watt light bulb will need a certain amount of milliamps in order to power it. You take a look on the left-hand side picture, you will need 1,000 milliamps in order to power a 100-watt light bulb. So 1,000 milliamps. Now, if you take a look at a 10% of this, only 100 milliamps has the potential to stop your heart from beating. In fact, 30% of this, so just 30 milliamps, 30% of where your heart stops, you have the potential to suffocate. Now, here's where it gets very interesting. You need 1,000 milliamps to power a 100-watt light bulb. 1% of that, 1%, that is 10 milliamps, has the potential to hold you to that electrical cable and will not let you go. So that little bit of electricity that is powering your 100-watt light bulb has more than enough power, 10 times enough power to kill a human person. So please protect yourself from electric shock, whether you are doing the installation, using electrical tools, performing inspections, or even doing maintenance. Do not let overloaded sockets, bad cabling become the last day of your task. Do not let it become your last day here on earth. We do not want you to be shocked or killed because of incorrect installations, poorly maintained electrical tools, or even the incorrect use of these tools. As we mentioned, we wanted to talk to you a little bit about an initiative that we'll be running with IOPSA. IOPSA has approved us from OHSS to bring you the PRIME course, the Plumbing, Risk and Incident Management Education. Now, what is PRIME? I'd like to, if I can, I'm just going to pull up our PDF document here, and I'm going to share it with you on the screen to show you exactly what the PRIME course actually is. I'm just going to take 2 minutes to explain it. Now, what we've done, PRIME for Plumbers, the all-new Plumbing, Risk and Incident Management Education. This PRIME course is going to assist you in a mentorship-based program. Now, together with the Institute of Plumbing, we would like to show you this risk management course. It is valued at 15,000 Rand. Now, if you are not an IOPSA member, you are able to purchase this course. All right, you will have it on the LMS system. You can pay the 15,000 Rand and still go through this course. But if you are an IOPSA member, starting on the 1st of March, 2022, you will have free access to this PRIME course. You can send as many people as you want in your company. As owners of the company or employers of the company, you are also able to go in, and this will be a prerequisite to obviously getting your master plumber qualification. So if you're reaching out for that and you need those CPD points, we want you to be able to achieve this course. Now, throughout the course, you will reach certain milestones. You'll be getting awarded certificates that are accredited with SIOSH, and you will have this entire course available for a 12-month period. So from the 1st of March until the end of February 2023, you will be able to study at your own pace. Now, let's take a look at exactly what you are looking at. What is PRIME? Well, the PRIME course is a series of smaller courses. All of these are developed into a simple to follow program to assist plumbers to reach a new standard of health and safety. We are going to emphasize the health and safety responsibilities of each person within the company, from employers to employees. Now, it's a 3-part program. Each part will come through with its own little course badge, starting off with the plumb bob. Now, plumb bob is accuracy. We know what an old plumb bob is. If you don't know what a plumb bob is, maybe ask somebody who's been in plumbing a little bit longer than you have. In this plumb bob stage, you will have 2 courses as well as an introductory course. The scope of this course is understanding legislation as well as your responsibilities in terms of that legislation. And this is all directed around plumbing. You notice that you will also receive certificates after these 2 courses. So working towards your main certificate, which is prime, during the course, these little milestones, you will also be rewarded. So once you've completed this, you will receive 2 certificates. One stating that you have been through a legal liabilities course, as well as gone through the occupational health and safety representative course. So perhaps if you need a health and safety rep in your company, why not send them on this course? It's free and they will receive their SHE-Rep certificate. We then take a look at the second of this 3-part. This is risk mitigation. In order to really understand risk, we need to look at the identification of hazards as well as the assessment of risks. Now, in this second part, you will get 3 courses. It's going to take you a little bit longer to get through this information because the bulk of the information or the base of a safety management system is really risk assessment or risk management. And so with these 3 courses, you'll be taken through risk management and control. You will also, again, receive these 2 milestones. Now, the course badge on this, you will be able to achieve a bronze water pump pliers. You will receive 2 certificates. First of all, you will receive a hazard identification and risk assessment certificate. Again, this comes with CPD points as well as accredited through SIOSH. The second certificate you'll receive is conducting a risk assessment. This is a continuous risk assessment on site. We then take a look at the 3rd part, stating that safety doesn't happen by accident. Incidents and accidents do occur. And so the 3rd part is looking at incident management, as well as conducting an incident into workplace safety. And you will receive a silver pipe cutter. This is the badge that will be attached to this 3rd part. You will have 2 courses and 3 days to attain this course. Now, included in incident management is also emergency management. Emergencies do happen, and from incidents and accidents, we need to look at the consequences of what these could occur. Here, you will also have 2 courses. Again, you will receive 2 certificates, the basic firefighting, as well as explaining emergency preparedness and response procedures for a company. This will help you now to really fully achieve a complete understanding of how safety file and management systems actually work, from risk-based thinking to incident management and emergency management. Then we take a look at the final part of this course. In order to become a prime plumber, somebody who is really looking at risk and incident management, you will take a look at the final course. Now, the final course is made up of 12 modules. This is called safety file management. To be able to achieve your full safety potential, you will have 2 days to be able to achieve a golden plunger. Now, this is to really become a prime plumber. We take you through, it's the Occupational Health and Safety Consulting's safety management systems. You're welcome to purchase the safety management system from us as well, but you can use your own safety management system or develop your own one. And what you are going to do here is take a look at every single part of a safety management system, from policies, procedures, the difference between a risk assessment, method statement, safe work procedure, how to control employees, how to control contractors, how to control your waste, your energy usage, all the way down to inductions, toolbox talks, registers and checklists, as well as auditing, monitoring, and reviewing your management system. All of this, the entire package, is worth 15,000 Rand to you as a plumber. IOPSA is giving it to you for free. Starting on the 1st of March, we really look forward to seeing each and every single one of you there. So we'd like to say thank you very much. I hope we're going to be making a note of the amount of participants here. And on the 1st of March, I really want to see all those participants taking advantage of this free IOPSA course. Thank you.